In the heart of the digital jungle, one man dares to unlock the power of AI and maybe make it back in time for the QBR. He's been running from the relics of the past like legacy POS, manual inventory, and the dreaded spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets. Why did it have to be spreadsheets?
On the border, Rob?
What
are we doing here?
Well, come on. It's about the power of transformation. If
Yeah.
you don't get prepared, AI is going to run you over like a boulder.
Bro, we just did this like 4 hours ago.
I know, but it was such a good setup, and I wanted to use my whip.
No, we're done here. I'm just going to clear this off here. We got a real session to put on here.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just take this ball off stage.
You don't let
here.
me have any fun anymore. I wore the bunny suit one year. I wanted to do something new.
Yeah, we're getting AI out of here. Just keep going, will you?
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Rob from Intel. I'm happy you're here. And we wanted to do something different this year because we wanted to have an opportunity to talk about solutions in the entire ecosystem. So the goal today, whether you're a vendor, whether you're a VAR, whether you're a service provider, whether you sell to retail, warehousing, whatever, it's all about being aware of what's going on in the ecosystem of our customers and being prepared for that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how the customer is changing, how you have to be prepared to engage with your customers in new ways. And based on that, we'll also hear feedback directly from people in our ecosystem, little discussion with a bit of a panel, and you'll walk away with some perspectives and some new exciting things that BlueStar and Intel are doing to really accelerate this whole journey for you out in the ecosystem. It is a boulder. All funniness aside, AI is the topic, the whole thing this morning, talking about the vision of things. And while that was a very hope-oriented story, which I really appreciated, there's whole elements of this story that it's very scary to people. Headlines associated with how things are going to be changing the way you think, how we do our business planning, successful deployments in retail, in restaurants. And the reason these deployments are very interesting is not just because of the technology. It's changing the way that our customers think about how they're going to solve problems. So let's think about how now with AI being infused in everything, how is it changing the way customers define their requirements? Well, for a long time, of course, in the traditional technologies we sell in the BlueStar ecosystem, we could count on, hey, there's a new release, we can talk about the new capabilities, make sure we get into the next refresh cycle, nice, stable progression. But now we're in this weird hockey stick moment where vendors, hardware, software, are starting to realize that they have to infuse AI into the things they do. And because the buyers are being bombarded not just with news, but also with the realities of having to deal with things like refreshing all their PC fleets because of the Windows refresh, or thinking about re-architecting their data centers because their cloud costs are out of control. That means that the world of the CIO, which is not traditionally where BlueStar's value-added reseller community sells, those requirements are being pushed out to the edge, which means that AI readiness is now something that's critical for being evaluated against for all different types of technologies. In fact, industry thought leaders, IDC, IBM, Deloitte, are calling out how they're thinking about even writing their RFPs, evaluating even commodity-style products that don't have anything to do with AI against their ability to support digital transformation. And that changes a lot of the way that we have to think about engaging with our customers, doesn't it? Because even if when they're thinking about, deploying a new hand scanner, or they're thinking about a new digital display, they're thinking about how they're going to equip the next forklift that they're setting up. They have to be thinking of it through the lens of data generation, data analytics, and real-time AI assistance living out in the world that we're dealing with. So AI is changing the way that customers define their requirements. Now, there's another element to this, though, that we certainly touched on this morning around AI, and it's an interesting one. It's all about workplace productivity. At Intel, we've had an interesting year. I'll say interesting. 15,000 people were laid off at Intel. Massive restructuring. By the way, Microsoft also recently laid off about the same amount of people. And it's interesting from the point of view that we're able to get a lot of the same work done with less people. Because what we're doing is we're equipping our teams with AI tools to get things done. It's not that AI is going to replace people in your customer. It's that the people that know AI are going to be able to get more done, and they're more productive. Now, there's a knockoff effect to that, which I hope you can interpret, especially if you're a value-added reseller. I know this is going on with some of your vendor partners. But the question is, are you transforming your workforce using AI? Does your marketing organization actively use AI tools to build up their demand campaigns based on user persona? Is your sales team equipped with generative AI tools that dynamically generate questions to pose to their customers before they get on a call? Or are you still working with the good old-fashioned vendor cards, that are nice and laminated? Remember the laminated cards we get? We have to be dynamic in the way we're doing things because that's what our customers are doing. And they're doing it because they know it makes a big impact. This was a recent Harvard study that was done at Procter & Gamble, and it was 750 work teams combining business and technical people. And then they basically set up this test, and they were exploring whether or not, what was the impact of AI from a productivity point of view. And here's the shocking thing that they discovered. When they equipped an individual with AI tools to solve a product management problem, like why is our ketchup not selling in the Northeast? Okay? I don't know that Procter & Gamble sells ketchup, but you get the idea. Mark, you can correct me later what product they're supposed to be selling from Procter & Gamble. They found that an individual equipped with AI generated better results than an entire team that didn't have AI. Now think about what that means. That means instead of me spinning up an entire group of 6 people to launch a new product, I put one smart person in there with a model trained to do what I want to do, and they come up with ideas that are higher quality faster. Their time to solution is better. Here's the other interesting thing too. The study on the picture on the right that you're seeing is the type of solution that's going on. So typically, if you put a technical person in a room and give them a problem, what kind of solution do they come up with? A technical solution. And if you give a business person a goal to solve a problem, they come up with a business solution. You give them an AI tool focused and trained on the data of the company, and each person arrives at a blended solution. That's a huge deal, because now that means that the expertise that lives in your client's organization is all over the place. That means that your most technical person in your business can also be the most business fluent person if you equip them with the right tools. So AI is changing the way customers evaluate vendors, which means we have to evaluate ourselves and how we operate. Because AI is driving cross-functional decision-making in everything that happens. Because new people can be involved in different ways, you're going to find yourself dealing with different stakeholders. It's not going to always be the person you've sold to for the last 10, 20, 30 years. It could be a complete new buying dynamic. In fact, I know some of the biggest deployments out in the quick-serve restaurant space, for example, are evaluated through the lens of large, comprehensive stakeholders in IT, business, operations, facilities management, evaluating all considerations. The selling process is going to get more challenging, not easier, which means you have to be prepared. And this is important because since there's so many different stakeholders that go in, it's all about having a specification for the problem that is aligned with future needs. It's not good enough to just talk about what's happening today. Clients are defining their requirements through the lens of flexibility to deal with the next trend. Remember, it was only a few years ago when ChatGPT hit the market and we got into this hockey stick mode. Does anybody have NVIDIA stock? I bet you do if you have a 401k. I bet you're really excited about the AI business from an investment point of view. The question is right now, how are you preparing your own business to take advantage of what this opportunity means? That means being prepared to answer questions that are being posed. Now, whether you're a hardware company, a software company, a services business, your customers are going to be asking you different questions. Hardware, hey, it's not just about the capabilities now. It's about where are we going to be in 24 months? What's going to be the new technology I have? Believe me, you don't want to be the reseller who recommended a product that was $20 cheaper and then have to rip and replace it because it's not able to run an AI workload. You don't want to be that one. On the software side, it's not good enough just to have software that works. It's about having software that's open, that can be connected and integrated with other things. Because the best thing about Lego blocks is you don't know what might happen where you have to build something new. And that's what people are expecting now in this world of AI-driven software. And if you're a services business, which of course all of us, whether hardware, software, or a value-added reseller, they're asking, does my partner know how to talk to me about my business outcomes? Do they know how to talk to me about what I need now and what I will need in the future? And that's at the heart of what it means for an organization to become an AI-driven enterprise. The key thing that I need you to remember here is that as we talk about solutions, solutions are all about the combination of AI-ready hardware, software, and services. And if we bring those things together, we can do amazing things. Okay, so I think what we're going to do at this point is we're going to bring on Lesek, who's one of my colleagues, who's going to now take us through this concept of what a solution is all about.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah. Did I do something wrong again?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. No, you didn't really actually do anything wrong. I'm kind of sorry I stole your thunder a little bit earlier with the whole boulder roll and stuff like that, but I'll tell you what, as a make good, our good friends over at Nexus AMR, who have robotics out on the floor out there, they've allowed me to use this beer robot. And so I know you're the channel's best bartender, so do you mind like walking around and serving people beer as Lesek comes out?
That sounds like a great idea.
Would that work? Oh, see, I didn't even have to introduce Lesek.
No,
awesome.
I did already.
Okay. So Rob's going to serve you a beer if you'd like. You just direct it towards him, and he'll serve you a beer from our beer robot here. There you are, sir. Just put that in your pocket. It should follow you around.
Okay. Rob, don't distract them too badly with the beer. They won't listen anymore. So I bet you guys have all heard excuses from your sales teams. I just put up a few humorous examples. The dog ate the quote. Our marketing team's no good. My customers don't have any budget anymore. There's way too much competition. I'm too busy because I'm in the Bahamas at the beach. Oh my God, my quota is so big I can't possibly make it this year. Has anybody heard anything like that before? I bet you all have, and there's probably even more creative ones out there. And there's no AI SKU. How am I supposed to sell AI? There's no SKU I can call my rep from BlueStar and say, I'd like to buy that AI SKU. Nope, there's no AI SKU. So my sales team's overwhelmed. I don't have an AI SKU. What am I going to do? We're going to talk a little bit today about how to transform your sales team's experiences and how solutions can help you do that. And it doesn't matter whether you're a hardware partner, an ISV, a VAR. This should be of interest to all of you. So I think we can all agree when we've had good experiences in a sales capacity that has come from an intersection of the people, the processes, and the places that we deal with every day. And it's really where that intersection comes together that forms an experience, and that's where the magic and transformation happens. I'm going to tell you a little story about an experience I had many years ago. I've been a long-term Audi owner, and I've had multiple brand new Audis. I was getting the one before the one I have now serviced. And my sales guy came upstairs while I was waiting for it to get finished. And he said, did you know that 2018 is the very last year that Audi is ever going to import a manual transmission car to Canada? And I said, oh my God, go find me a red car. I've always wanted a red car. I need to trade in what I have because there's no way I'm driving an automatic. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So he came back upstairs 15 minutes later and said, well, yeah, I found a red car. It's at some dealership in Quebec, but it's not really as nice as what you have. And I said, how long have we been having a relationship together for? You know that I'm an avid driver. I love the experience of driving a car. Come back when you have something real to tell me, or this relationship's definitely going to be over. Another 15 minutes go by, and he comes back and he says, all right, I've got it this time. There is a car, it is red, it is better than what you have, and it is not even built yet. It's in the production inventory in Germany. If you want this car, it's yours. And I said, you now have a deal because you've met my emotional response to what I want and the experience that I need. So when I tell this story only so that as you guys are out talking to your customers, think about your own personal experiences. Think about how these things come together and how you might leverage that to frame a conversation with your customers. So we have to try, as good spirits in the industry, to really align these solutions to use cases that define value for our customers. You know, you'll see some elements here of what it means to have vendor capabilities, the 5G, machine vision, large language models. You know, we could go on for forever. You've got the scope of the solution. You know, does it need to contain touch screens, barcodes, RFID, ads? What does it need to deliver? And then on the other side of that spectrum, as you come down, you've got financial metrics, you've got industry-specific things, and the money's in the middle where you finally deploy that use case. But my question to everybody is, who is defining that scope when you go have the conversation with your customer? How many times have you all responded to an RFP or an RFI where you didn't write the scope? You couldn't really necessarily totally respond to it, and you wish that you'd been earlier in the conversation. That's what we've got to do. We've all got to get earlier in the conversation with our customers and become the trusted advisors to them so that we're writing the scope instead of just responding to the scope. So how do we do that? We have to think about the right combination of the hardware, the software, the services, what differentiates us. And it's not really about the particular ingredients. It's about the elements of the ingredients. You know, what things do you need and who's in control of that solution? And if you work together with your customer, you can uncover some of these things. So start asking more questions. Ask them, what are they doing with this thing that they're buying? What are they trying to achieve for their customers? What outcomes are they driving to? Really help them on the journey so that you become more in control of setting that spec with the customer. Now, remember back to the car story? I truly do have this license plate on this nice red Audi that I got in 2018. I still have it. But, you know, just like AI, IoT was kind of a hype thing, but I'm still the IoT girl at heart. I've been asked, are you going to become the AI girl? No way, I'm going to stay the IoT girl. What's also funny about this license plate is I'm, driving around and I live in Nova Scotia, yes, in a rural area, and they're like, what's an IoT girl? So I have to have a discussion with them about what that means. And then again, it starts a whole cycle of discovery and asking questions and building relationship and learning and growing. So it's kind of fun. But again, it's about that hype cycle. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Sorry, folks. If we we don't want to let it be about the hype. We really need to have a solution that fills the specifications. The tendency of most folks is to start in that middle section where the vendors all are. And I know there's vendors in the room. We've got software partners. We've got hardware partners. Don't worry, guys. You will become part of the solution. But we truly have to understand what our customers are trying to achieve, that outcome. Is it that we need to have shorter lines in a quick service restaurant? Do we need to make sure that we don't have quality control issues on our production lines in a manufacturing environment? Whatever it is, we need to understand, first and foremost, what our customers are trying to do, and so in a measurable way that we can help them achieve. Then we need to talk about the bottom part. Well, what's actually required to deliver on that? What feature sets? What things do they need to do? What elements of those do we need to factor into this spec that we're trying to set? And then, when we do that all right, we can start plugging in what vendors meet those requirements and specifications to deliver on that outcome. And it truly, like I said at the beginning of this, starts with people. So what do the people that you talk to at your customer care about? I cared about a good driving experience. It needed to be a manual. I needed the car to be read. I couldn't be worse than I had before. At least had to be as good, but even better was better. I still have this car 7 years later, and I cry every day because I'm like, what am I going to do when I have to replace this car? There is nothing that I can replace it with. So when you jump too close, too soon to those features and benefits, you're going to lose that discussion with your customer and the outcomes. So start thinking about posing questions on what keeps them up at night. What are they? What could you do to help them get promoted? Are they dealing with shrinkage, staff shortages? Do they have less people? Do they have other concerns that they need to think about? You know, you can look at, if it's a publicly traded company, obviously go to their annual reports. If it isn't, you know, draw on an annual report from a company that's similar in the same industry. So, you know, if you're looking at the approach that you have with your teams and how you talk to your customers, how are you doing today? Are you having these kinds of conversations? Could you start training your folks to have these conversations? Let's hope so. And now we're going to actually bring this sort of full circle and say, it doesn't matter, folks, whether you're, again, a hardware partner, an ISV, a VAR, everybody in the room should be thinking about, that's all good, but what do I need to do to change my business model? And I'm going to introduce John Martin to come out and lead a panel of folks from, he'll tell you who's coming, but hardware partners, software partners, et cetera, to have a discussion about how they're changing their business models to suit where the industry is going.
Lesek.
Thank you, John.
Fantastic work. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. So, this morning, something that really stood out to me. Before I start that, actually, I want to say one thing. I thought about coming out here and doing a little Who Wore It Better with Rob, but kind of decided I don't know who actually wins in that conversation. So, Rob, I'll just give this one to you on this time. You can be the Who Wore It Better here. All right, so something that stood out to me this morning when Zach had his conversation about AI and about where we're going, what we're dealing with. One thing he said, I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't know the exact quote. He said, you're not here to sell things. And in our world, you're selling solutions. We've been talking about this at BlueStar for a very long time. It's a big part of what we're doing. It's a big part of what VARTECH is about, is coming here, finding solutions. It's a big part of what you just heard about from Rob, from Lesek. Building this ecosystem, figuring out what it means to find the right partners to become AI ready, to drive the solutions that you need to go forward and take your customers to that next place. As Zach put it this morning, the idea that it's not just about a thing. It's not just about here's a gadget to put out there, but what can we do to bring new solutions? We've got to get on board with that. So we got a great panel that's going to come out here and talk to you about it from their perspective, because again, you're here to find partners. You're out there in Code Zone meeting hardware. You're meeting ISVs, you're meeting each other, you're talking with us on the distribution side. So let's talk about what we're dealing with here. All right, so I'm gonna bring out my guests. First up, I've got Luke Wilwerding from ELO. Come on out, Luke. Thank you for being here, sir. We've got Clinton Capuzzi from MeldCX. Welcome, Clinton. We have Joel Polanco from Intel. And finally, it's on the tip of my tongue. Dean, that's right. Okay, yeah. Some of you might have heard of this guy. Gentlemen, we appreciate you guys being here. And again, the idea is, hey, let's get the perspective. We got hardware, we got software, we got compute. What does it do again? Distribution.
We're
That's
in
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've never met this guy before today. So we're going to get a little bit of their insight here, what they're feeling with this conversation about AI readiness, about getting you where you need to go, about setting specs, all this amazing stuff. Luke, I want to start with you. So thinking of the customer side, we've had the conversations about this on the BlueStar Nation podcast. Find it on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. A little plug, I got to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get a raise for that, right, Dean?
Yeah.
Thanks. So thinking from your perspective, and you're thinking about defining solutions. We've had these conversations about AI readiness, about a solution. When you're having sales conversations, what does it mean when you say solution? What do people think you mean? What are you telling people when you say, let's define a solution?
Well, let's start with what it's not. It is not a part number. It's not a SKU. It's not any of those things. And so when you start to look at a solution, obviously you need to start with what problem you're solving, what your customer wants to accomplish. And the solution really becomes a holistic answer to those problems, which, of course, in our world would be hardware, but it's also software, it's also services, it's amortization schedules, it's financing, it's a lot of the different pieces you have to put together to make sure you're looking at a 360 view of your customer. And that also means you should know what the marketing team needs, what they want, what the engineering group needs, what the store ops teams needs, what your restaurant or kitchen operations might need. But you have to look at it holistically to provide a solution. It's not a part number.
Okay. What about the feature parts of things? I know ELO is great at features. You guys have modularity, you have all these amazing features. Most of our hardware partners have amazing features, lots of different components and ways that you can utilize a hardware device. But at the end of the day, we also know that you can't just, not all of those are going to be relevant in every situation. So how do you go about that when you're talking to customers, connecting those feature sets to the actual business outcomes that they're trying to reach?
I had a great conversation with Mark here earlier, who's an ISV, and he said, I'll tell you what it's not. And again, I'll keep this thing going here, but he said it's not feature vomit. And so imagine reps who get on calls and they say, oh, you're looking for this. So let me tell you about all the specs and speeds and feeds and how much memory it has and what it can do. This is fantastic. That's exactly what it's not. And so when you start looking at these types of things and those features, again, I go with the why. You start with the why, you start with the problem, and then you start to marry the features and the capabilities, the functionality, the long-term approach of what you're accomplishing to that of the customer's needs. And those become features that you can sell. I have a counter, and I want to make sure that the counter has the same technology all the way across. Well, you probably want something with a long life cycle, because if it has an 18 to 36-month life cycle, and it's going to take you 3 years to deploy all these, you need to make sure you're buying from a company that has a 5 to 8 year life cycle for the products you're looking at. I would probably talk to ELO. But it's those types of things. When you understand what your customer is trying to accomplish, those features become benefits. Those become selling points. It'll maintain your margin, and it'll help you close deals.
Perfect. If I could go on there, asking the why is so critical. I think your team at ELO does that so well, because you start getting into, when you start asking that question, you dig into like what the software is needed, and that you guys leverage yourself in the software community of being able to pull strings and bring solutions together. Asking why is key.
Yep. So I remember from my sales days, the show up and throw up. Just come out there and start spitting it. Oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Never mind if actually that's what they needed or not. All right, well then, let's talk AI readiness. Again, a topic you and I have sat around, had some beers and talked about before, and this idea that it's time to get ready, whether you're ready for it or not. And especially, I think there's some of you out there that maybe are still a little skeptical about AI. I get it. Sometimes I am too. And maybe you're thinking, this isn't quite where my business is ready to go. I'm not quite ready for these solutions. My customers aren't ready for these solutions. The industries I work in aren't ready for these solutions. What do you say to those people, though? Why is it so important that they start getting AI ready now, even if they think it's not where they're going anytime soon?
Well, I'm going to help you all jumpstart this here. How many of you bought Pokemon in 1996? Yeah. You think about it now, and you're like, ooh, that would have been good.
Yeah.
How many people 15 years ago paid 5 cents for their Bitcoins? Yeah, you wouldn't be sitting here right now if you did. I think $300 would be $685 million today, yesterday. But my point, though, is that you've got to be ready for AI. And I think we've heard throughout this entire conference, and we'll continue to hear, that AI is happening. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. And if you do the same thing you've done for the last 10 years and think you'll be successful for the next 10, I have some things to tell you, and they're not going to be fun. So when we start to look at AI readiness, it's really understanding, again, the needs of your customers, but how AI is going to fit into that. And it needs to be a part of every conversation. And it should be going forward. You have to understand the different aspects of AI, the vision, the agentic, and I can go on all these different topics of AI, but just understand what those are, what types of computers drive those. But it comes back to this, how do you be ready? You first have to understand it. You have to have a direction top down that says, we have to be AI ready as an organization. But I'd also say, because again, I'm here to make money, right? I think most people here are trying to sell something. So I also tell you, fail fast, fail forward. You've got to just start. And I gave an example earlier that a pizza restaurant implemented a low-cost camera above a pizza. They integrated that into their KDS system. And all it said is that, is it a pepperoni, is it sausage, has it got green peppers on it? It matched the order with what the vision application system saw on the pizza. Yes, there was a little bit of integration work. Did it cost them a fortune? No, it did not. But the implications are massive. And the point, though, is find a problem from your customers, figure out how AI fits into that. And I know from an ELO perspective that we do vision applications with partners. We do various theft prevention things with partners. We're doing voice now with partners and voice ordering kiosk applications where it makes recommendations, some loyalty applications. There's so many different things that you can go sell with AI now to get started, to fail fast, fail forward. You won't get it right every time. You might not get it right the first time, but you have to keep pushing and driving into this AI world. The last thing I'll close with is partners. Again, you look left, you look right, but everyone in this room probably has an AI angle to what they're doing, or they should at least. But you have to sell together. It's this community that's going to come together and it's going to win. But you have to make sure that you know your arsenal of the different AI partners that you work with. Obviously, Intel's a fantastic one. But you start to look at this to say, who am I partnering with to lead for the next decade? And that's something that, again, should be a focus as well.
Great stuff.
Really good advice.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Clete, I want to shift over to you and kind of get into the services side of things, the transformation side of things, and the partnership. Because again, you're here in part because we have made a strong point on the BlueStar side, and our whole community has, of bringing software companies in with us, bringing new partners in with us that can deliver interesting services and help us get to those next levels. So I want to get some of your perspective on that. And in particular, when you are looking at partners, when you're trying to figure out who's someone I do want to partner with, how do you evaluate them to determine if they're AI ready? Whether it's a VAR, an integrator, a hardware partner, even us maybe when you started working with us, how do you make that determination if someone's AI ready?
Yeah, so when we're looking at different partners, really we're looking for, I suppose, solid expertise in the industry, in hardware, software, services deployment. It's important that both technically and culturally that they're ready to adopt these new technologies, but in a responsible, measured, and scalable way, right? So when it comes to also adopt our compliance goals, it's very important to us that, from a security and privacy point of view, that it aligns with what we're doing, and there's also some internal alignment within the business that really advocates for this.
Definitely. So what are when you're thinking about building out solutions and you've got a customer that you want to engage with, what's your strategy for building ahead of time, maybe even before you've actually started engaging with customers? What process do you go through to figure out what your solutions should look like before you even go out there?
Yeah, so when it comes to new projects, obviously we look to build a number of sort of pre-built modules that are ready-made before we go out and see the first meeting with the client. So it's very important that we don't go there with an open slate where it's, let's start from scratch, what do you need? It's not everything can't be a custom solution, because if it's a custom solution and it's started from scratch, there's a higher chance of failure from the get-go. So we specialize in package solutions and starting from something, and then together with the customer we refine that solution into something that will provide faster time to value.
Nice.
Yeah, if I can make a sidebar there, MeldCX is exactly the kind of company, in my opinion, you would want to partner with, because that's exactly what they do in these bolt-ons. It's wonderful, right? It's a great way you guys can amplify what a reseller or a solution integrator can do in the marketplace based on your platform and the things that you have.
Right, and we're not looking for people to come with all the expertise. I mean, we have the expertise. We have tested modules that are been sort of tested out in the industry that you can just reuse, and obviously for high turnover in sales.
Yeah, I think we all kind of acknowledge that what we're trying to do today is one thing, but the whole scope of AI is constantly changing. I think if we all look back to when ChatGPT rolled out a few years ago, what we all thought that it was supposed to do and going to do versus where we are now, totally different. Most of us probably didn't think we'd be where we are now versus where we were then. And if you scale forward another 3 or 4 years, it's likely going to be different then too. So from that perspective, when you are thinking about your services and your offerings, how do you ensure that you're doing what you need to do today to solve problems now, but also continuing to look forward to the future?
Yeah, I mean, we work with customers obviously today to solve the challenges of today, but we're always looking and researching the requirements of the customers for tomorrow, right? So we want to make sure that in parallel, you know, we're refining our models, we're doing a lot of work around our infrastructure, making sure it's always current, up to date, and we're always looking at in parallel to, but also delivering value whilst we're doing that. You know, we're not just trying to deliver something that is, you know, a pipe dream. We're delivering something today whilst looking at what should be coming tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect attitude to have about that. All right, Joel, let's turn it over to you. Let's talk about what's happening over in the world of Intel, what you guys are thinking about and doing. And your focus is on point of sale, which may not be what everyone's dealing with here, but at the same time, what you're doing there and what you're thinking about there is the same kind of problems that everyone's thinking about in a lot of different industries. So but scaling just to POS itself, what does AI readiness look like on that side right now?
Yeah, I was actually talking to Luke about this on our way over, and you know, we kind of split point of sale up into like 2 major categories, like your automated AI checkout and then your traditional POS. So if you break it up into that, you know, in the AI checkout where you know you are fully automated, the AI is actually integrated into the device, and so that market is small today, but growing fast. There are a number of cases like in convenience stores and in airports where that is scaled. On the traditional POS side, I think about it in terms of where are the AI workloads going to run, because a lot of times they're not running on the device itself, but rather around the device. And so you see AI running in cameras via loss prevention use cases. You see those same loss prevention use cases at other partners running on servers in some cases. And so it is still early in the game. You know, we believe that AI is going to run in multiple places in POS. There's going to be a lot of use cases that applications are endless. And we see this as a big growth path for the industry.
Perfect. So when you are working with a company like Elo or any hardware manufacturer, I mean, we know compute is a big, important part of all this. You know, if you don't have the compute power, you're not going to get where you need to be with AI solutions, obviously. So how are you evaluating hardware to make sure that it is ready to do where we need to be right now, and again, in the future, to make sure that we can enable all this cool stuff that we're talking about doing?
Yeah, I think here it's thinking about modularity. Thinking about the product around the product. In other words, when doing an evaluation, you're looking at the partners that you're working with, their capability, their ability to train the customer on the value that they bring, and then building that trust. Because I think a lot of the data points show us 2 things are really preventing adoption. 1 is training and skill set. 2 is trust. Trust in this new technology and the capability. Is it going to deliver on what you're telling me? And you need to be able to deliver on both of those things.
Definitely. So I know Rob mentioned a lot about specs, selling the spec, you know, figuring out the specs of things before we go out there and just start trying to sell stuff. But what does that mean when someone reaches out to you and has a request for an AI-driven solution of some sort? Especially, let's say it's someone on the procurement side. I know in the world of procurement, sometimes those folks are just like, look, someone told me to go buy this, so I'm just going to go buy it. I'm going to tell them what I want, even if I'm not the person that's going to end up using it. What do you do in those situations? What's your biggest challenge when you're trying to set that spec in that kind of a situation?
Yeah, I like how, Clinton, you said pipe dream, right? So it reminded me of you know, Jim Mora. He's an ex-NFL head coach. He's had the famous video of the press asking him about the playoffs. And I think at the time the Colts, and he's saying, playoffs? Playoffs? What are you talking about, playoffs? What I'm talking about, you know, what he's talking about here is expectations, right? And so being able to set those expectations up front, before the role I'm in today, I was working in RFID, and a number of customers had seen presentations where folks were promising 99% inventory accuracy in some really hard use cases. And while that is possible, it's extremely expensive. And so you're having to come back and say, yes, we can get 99% inventory accuracy in your in-store use case, but I'm going to tell you that is 2x to 3x more expensive than the 95% inventory accuracy you're going to get. And by the way, let's go check your inventory accuracy today without an RFID solution. Most folks were around 65 to 70. And so you can get huge gains in improvement in accuracy in RFID by just implementing a basic solution. You don't need to spend the 2 to 3x to get to that 99% accuracy that you're looking for, and having that expectation. But you have to get out there and you have to test it, you have to show them. And it's the same thing with AI. You want to set those expectations so that folks can understand truly how it's going to impact their business and how it's going to enable their why.
Yeah. Luke, Clint, are you guys finding the same thing? When you're out there talking to customers, are you finding people just have kind of like way outlandish ideas that they're not necessarily ready for, and you're not necessarily ready for them either?
I see a little bit of the customers push back a little bit, saying, oh, AI doesn't have the ROI. I don't know if this is going to work for me. And so we are seeing some of that. Or some of the ideas is that AI can solve all problems. It's AI. And so I think there's bringing knowledgeable partners to the table and people that understand how this works is key. And then again, I go back to that problem. But AI is working. And we have many, many examples of its use case, its implementation, and the ROI that creates success. So.
Yeah. Clint, would you agree?
Yeah, and I think we see a lot of customers, they come with these really grand plans of all these things they want to do, and they start with this massive scope, right? And we say, okay, well, we go through it one by one, and eventually we start to dwindle down the scope to something that is actually achievable, whilst working on a structured roadmap to actually get them to where they want to be. But I think it's about being realistic about what you can achieve now, rather than focusing on what's possibly done in the future. So that's what we tend to see, is a lot of large scope projects.
Gotcha. Okay. Dean, right?
Yeah,
Dean. Okay. So obviously, in our world, we're looking to bring all of this together. You're all here because we said, hey, come down here and meet a bunch of awesome people, build out all these great solutions, find your next partnership, drive your business and move it forward. And we're kind of stuck in the middle trying to figure out how to wrangle all that together. Why did we do this to ourselves?
Why do we?
So let's talk about that from the engagement side of things and building out these models and helping these folks do that. So again, taking everything that we've learned from the rest of our panel here, what we've been talking about, what are we doing to help our partners evolve their engagement model to move into the age of AI?
Yeah, I think we've already hit on it, right? So it comes down to, and thank you for saying it, training. It comes down to solution garnering and being able to develop the solutions and being able to take that to market. And oh, by the way, I know I'm a little bit biased, but also helping to market those solutions out in the marketplace. So when you look at it, I do think training's key. And I'm so glad Zach kind of touched on the human element today, right? Yeah. Because people still buy from people. How do you put money in the bank? You got to enable your sales team to be able to go out into the marketplace and do that. Well, how do you enable them? Well, you have to build the ecosystem of AI folks that are in that ecosystem that you can lean on so that you can have the right solution and bring it to the marketplace. So training's huge. Developing those solutions is the other part of the puzzle. And then finally, now I'm putting on my marketing hat, start leveraging out in the marketplace. There is a need for it, yes, but there is an opportunity for you to angle yourself as being yet another way that you can be a trusted advisor to your customer now through AI.
Definitely.
So anyway, we have marketing programs that can help with
that.
I was just you might know a little bit about some of that stuff.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask about that because we are marketing guys, and Lesek had that list of excuses up there that salespeople have, and sometimes they throw us marketers under the bus. Right. So how do we accomplish that? How can marketing for these folks go back to maybe if they're marketers themselves or go back to their marketing team, help them boost their sales, help their sales team get them out there and explain what AI actually can do?
Yeah, I think it's through the solutions that we're building. Obviously, we take a whole solution approach to our marketing endeavors. So if you'd like, of course, we can work for you. And we do work with you through our Demand Lab programs. And usually it is all around solution sets, finding niche audiences to go after with those types of solutions. If nothing else that we've learned over the last 6, 7 years, John, you got to get niche-y with what your solutions are. We can help you with that through our Demand Lab program, because that is how you win. That is how you can start differentiating yourself in the marketplace and really unearthing some of these opportunities that are realistic. I mean, I love the fact that you went pie in the sky. Yeah, of course, you walk in and it's like, well, we've got all these ideas. Yeah, we got to whittle that down to what is actionable now and a timeline moving forward. But anyway, back to the Demand Lab. Once you find those things, we can help you now amplify that in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So again, we're in the middle of this we're the middle ground of sort of this channel. I remember when I started at BlueStar, for a long time, I'm trying to understand, like, what are we? Like, we don't make the things, we're not the ones using the things, we're not the ones selling the things, the people are using the things. But I've learned over time that we have an important part of what we're doing here. But how do you think that our view of the channel, and the way we are kind of working with everybody at every angle of it, helps us go out there and deliver solutions to them to meet very industry-specific, those niche-y outcomes that you mentioned?
I'm going to steal a phrase from Michel Serrois. We are an orchestrator, right? So
I like
distribution has this multiple angles, but what I love about distribution and what we do is we have those optics. We go out, that's why we develop programs like Tech Connect, so that we can bring in the ISV community. It's why we're out there getting service providers that offer these unique offerings. It's why we continue to expand our services as far as rollouts and custom configuration and things like that, all to enable that. But again, our optics are around the ecosystem, right? We just want to help orchestrate what that ecosystem is and bring people into that universe. That is key for moving forward. You got to have the right ecosystem.
I agree.
So.
We have a couple extra minutes left with you guys. Any other final thoughts that you have about bringing together partners, making everyone AI ready?
I'll make a comment.
Sure.
So one of the things that I've learned is customers are oftentimes trying to find an answer to a problem. And that generally comes in the form of a product or a solution, as we're calling it. And what I've been seeking out is predefined solutions. I think when you look out into the market, you're going to find many people that say, we do AI. But I think you've got to narrow that scope. And I know that MeldCX and others do this, but narrow it to the exact problem you're solving and make sure they have a product or solution that does that. Because again, I think what you're seeing in the wild, wild west of this massively emerging space is that customers want to use AI, but they have to understand that there's a product or solution that does what they're asking for. Otherwise, you get into this big pie-in-the-sky scope creep issues. So narrowing your customers to the solution, like I used the camera example of solving for a major problem that had huge ROI, and we can give you other examples as well. But as you narrow down to that, you'll have something to sell. You'll have something to go out and talk to your customers about. But otherwise, if you're going and approaching this, it's AI, it solves all problems, I think you're going to run into some problems with that.
You got to keep an eye on putting money in the bank. Sorry, go ahead there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there's just a lot of confusion out there, right? There's a lot of people saying a lot of different things. We can do all these things, claiming all these grand things that they can achieve with AI, and it's just, a lot of it's not, that's why if you focus on one very specific thing and just deliver that, I think that's the key, as Luke was saying. So, yeah, too much confusion, I think, is the key.
Definitely.
One of my observations is that the leaders are trying things. They're failing fast. We've worked with several large retailers on different use cases, and one thing we've noticed is they are testing them, they're deploying them in the cloud, and then they're looking at their long-term costs and trying to figure out how can I re-architect some of this to go to the edge. And when the cutover, when they make that decision, is based on the adoption, particularly on the employee adoption side. The employees need to be trained, they need to trust that technology. And if they don't use it, then you're not going to get the value.
Yeah, that's really good.
Definitely.
We talk about that often on the podcast. Yeah. I mean, end users want to enable their associates in retail or whatnot, but if the technology's failing, you know, and the plan wasn't there yet. Nightmare.
Yeah, they turn away, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this goes right back to what you were talking about this morning, that MIT study, that all of these companies were trying out these pilots and they were all finding them as failing because they weren't working with the right partners to make them happen.
That's right.
What I thought was also interesting about that study is that individuals in those companies, they were having no problem with deploying AI in their jobs and using it and utilizing it and helping make things better for themselves.
Yeah.
But the company itself was kind of trying to do the same thing that the employees were doing, and they were failing because that's not how it works at the company level. That's where it requires folks like us to come in and help scale these up into a place that an enterprise can actually use.
It's true. It's true.
All right, so this conversation actually doesn't quite really end here. I mean, these guys are done, but you can go find them anywhere, anytime. Find them out on the Code Zone floor. Find them out, tonight. I'm sure you guys don't mind talking about this stuff over some drinks either, right? I know Luke doesn't. But if you would like to learn more about some of this stuff, we actually are going to have a webinar upcoming specifically on the side of retail intelligence with our friends at IHL Intel helped us get this set up. They're going to do a retail intelligence briefing, trends, tech, tactical readiness, coming up October 9th. There's a QR code on screen. If you'd like to attend that webinar, scan that, sign up. You'll find us promoting it out on our socials as well. But get signed up for that. We're going to continue that conversation. Dean and I are going to be part of that as well, talking a little bit more about what we're doing within our ecosystem to drive this conversation forward. Luke, Clint, Joel, Dean, yes. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate having you guys out here. I'm going to turn this back over to you, Dean, to wrap us up.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, Rob, are you still serving beer out there? Where did he go? Is he serving beer? Where is Rob? There's the beer bot. I was hoping he'd kind of bring me up a beer or not. No? Oh, there you are. I see.
I thought I could get your attention with the whip.
So let's do a couple final closing thoughts here, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think what's interesting in this time right now, when we talk about all of AI, just like Lesek called out, whenever we have these big industry shifts, and some people say that it's like the next internet wave.
Yeah, right.
When we're in this kind of a thing, it's a market stress, and that creates huge amounts of share change. The market share is completely unstable right now.
For sure.
Which means who the leader is not determined yet. And so the question—
That's opportunity.
That's opportunity. So the question, just like the boulder analogy, you're either going to get run over by the boulder, or more appropriately, you're prepared and your competitor gets run over by the boulder.
Yeah.
So you got to ask yourself, are you prepared? I think that's where it comes down to.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we need to be thinking about here is what can these people do when they get home?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The practical stuff.
Well, what are the action items?
What are the action items?
Yeah,
so let's give everybody some homework.
Fair
okay?
enough. Yeah.
And I think regardless of whether or not you're a hardware company, a software company, a value-added reseller. First of all, thinking in mind of the way that Lesek was talking about evaluating that experience concept. And I'd suggest relook at your QBR template. Relook at how you're doing your sales reviews with your team. If it's literally just a bunch of numbers, things like that, email it. The question is, are you emphasizing deep knowledge of your customers' key outcomes? How intimate is your sales team associated with what that customer's priorities are?
Humanize it, if I can
Humanize
use the word
it,
from
yeah,
today.
right. And how could AI transform it? And how is that going to flank them that then you can prepare for that conversation, even if all you're trying to do is sell a printer?
Yeah, right.
Be prepared to have that knowledge in your head, because then you're a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
The other thing is, just as we saw here, we've got a host of ecosystem partners, and many of them, like the ones we brought up, they're thinking about this stuff. And I would suggest, everybody needs to evaluate their partners. If you're dealing with partners right now, vendors that aren't coming to you with an AI readiness story, that aren't thinking about the compatibility of what they're doing in the broader specification of transforming a particular sector, challenge them. Challenge them on that.
I think that's a fantastic idea. And as I said this morning, these vendors, the good ones, have a mind towards that.
Absolutely.
And to your point, you want to be setting the spec, so you need those vendor partners that are getting in the right form, right? Or along the right trail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the nuance here is getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
Because that's how you make a good marketing campaign.
Yep.
That's how you drive a good progression cycle.
Yep.
That's what makes business close. Finally, I think the best thing, the reason people come to VARTECH is to of course, meet old friends, make new ones, but it's also about creating a solution coalitions. You know, we had a stack of meetings this morning with VARs and with hardware companies, software companies, looking at how all these pieces are fitting together. You should be really building those together and set a specification that you can control, whether it's a robot, whether it's a point-of-sale system, whether it's a warehouse infrastructure. All about driving an alignment to something that delivers value. Yeah. What kind of things is BlueStar doing now?
Right there, right. Thank you for queuing that up so nicely. So what you see here, a little bit of what we talked about this morning was around solution selling and bringing vetted solutions to market. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to start seeing out of us in partnership with Intel and some of the other people that you see here. The whole idea here, folks, is to start with obviously some foundational portions of a particular solution. What you're seeing here is a restaurant solution stack, but then back of house, front of house, these are very simplistic, but what our goal is to now start building these solutions out, and you would have a place to go to find out about this information and feel confident going into the marketplace with these types of solutions. So we're starting to dive into things like retail loss prevention, right? I'm sure a lot of you that are in retail, you're getting asked for this kind of stuff. But when you look at it, you can look at it in cold storage monitoring, or you can look at it in risk monitoring. So there's different ways, and these just keep stacking on top of each other. So what I love about our relationship with Intel and their ecosystem, kind of mirroring it up and matching it up with our ecosystem, you can do cool stuff like this. Now we're getting into manufacturing solution stacks where we're looking at workflow tracking and, oh, by the way, digital work instructions on the backside, maybe out on the shop floor. So we're getting very sophisticated about how we can kind of niche into these solutions. And again, the whole optics here are trying to enable it for you so that you can go to market confidently with that.
Yeah,
I know that you guys have ability. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I mentioned. It's the ideas that we're creating. We're not trying to create this stuff in a vacuum. This is all in collaboration with partners that are coming to us.
Yep.
You know, I've got a reseller who's dealing with a specific type of client.
Yep.
Okay, we work into the software and hardware ecosystem, and we ideate on how to solve that problem. And there's a great opportunity right now. If you scan this QR code, we're doing back up.
Nope, this is one. That's one live.
Up.
You want to go? Oh, I'm sorry.
That
little
this
one.
QR
That's
code.
good
That
QR code. Got it.
Scan that one. The Industry Solution Builders Challenge is a contest that we're running. If you have an idea for a great capability,
yes,
that is aligned to an edge application, software, bringing together hardware, bringing your services together, we're running a contest, and that'll end up with a big magnifying campaign coming out of corporate, as well as certifications, special certifications.
I love that part. I think that has a lot of value in the marketplace.
It should be pretty good. But
Rob Risany, thank you so much. Thank you, Intel, for everything that you guys do for us. Much appreciated.